Hey students, today we have a mega lesson about one of the most common English verb tenses, and that is the present perfect tense. This lesson will teach you everything you ever wanted to know about the present perfect. We'll cover what is the present perfect, when do we use it, there's two situations, how to form the present perfect in positive, negative statements and questions. What is the past participle? How do we use it with ever and never? How do we use the present perfect with already, yet, recently, lately, and just? And how about with for and since? We can have present perfect active voice and present perfect passive voice. And finally, the difference between the present perfect simple and the present perfect continuous. Whew! This is like the complete guide to the present perfect, and you can actually download a free PDF with all the information from this lesson, as well as not one, not two, not three, but 4 quizzes. Very important to practice what you're learning. Click on the link under this video and enter your email so I can send you that free PDF. Okay, let's start with what is the present perfect tense and when do we use it? We form the present perfect by subject, have or has, and the past participle of the main verb. For example, I have bought a car recently. She has visited the museum several times. We use the present perfect for 2 situations. One is for unfinished time, a period of time that continues to the present moment. That's differently from the simple past, which describes finished time. So look at the contrast. Present perfect. We have lived in New York since 2002, and we still live in New York. It's a period of time that's unfinished. It started in the past, and it continues to the present. But we would use the simple past to say, we lived in New York from 2002 to 2006. So in this case, we do not still live in New York. So the present perfect is used for unfinished time and also unspecified time, when we don't know or don't say exactly when. That's different from the simple past tense, which describes specific time. So contrast, present perfect. I've seen that movie. I don't say exactly when. I've seen it sometime in my life. Simple past. I saw that movie a year ago. Now I say specifically. Present perfect. He has sold his house recently. So it happened recently, but I don't know exactly when. Simple past. He sold his house last week. See the contrast between specified and unspecified time? So again, to form the present perfect in positive statements, we have I, you, we, or they have written, or he, she, or it has written. And in spoken English, it's common to use the short form for have or has. So instead of saying, I have written 3 books, we would say, I've written 3 books. We've already seen that movie. Barbara's forgotten her cell phone. He's just woken up. That's he has just woken up. To form negative sentences, we have I, you, we, or they haven't or have not seen. He, she, or it hasn't or has not seen. For example, I haven't seen John this week. Mary hasn't come to class for the past 2 days. And to form questions in the present perfect, have or has goes before the subject. So, have I, you, we, or they finished? Has he, she, or it finished? For example, have you finished the project yet? Has George ever been to New York? To answer present perfect questions, we can make a short answer using that helping verb have or has, or the negative form haven't or hasn't. So if someone asks you, have you been to London? You could respond, yes, I have, or no, I haven't. Has Alex met Miriam yet? Yes, he has, or no, he hasn't. Have the results of the election been announced? Yes, they have, or no, they haven't. Since in the present perfect we have a helping verb and a main verb, it is possible to say have had and has had when have is both the helping verb and the main verb in the sentence. For example, I've had a lot of computer problems lately. I have had. She's had, or she has had, 3 children in the past 5 years. We haven't had time to visit our relatives. He hasn't had a haircut for months. Again, in those sentences, Have is both the helping verb and the main verb. In the present perfect, that main verb is in past participle form. What is the past participle? Well, for regular verbs, the past participle is the same as the past simple tense. So, I worked all day yesterday. That's the simple past. I've worked here since August. That's the present perfect. So we have worked in the simple past and worked as the past participle. It's also the case for many irregular verbs. He sold, simple past, his car last week. He has sold, present perfect using the past participle, 200 books so far. But beware, because some irregular verbs' past participles are different from their simple past form. For example, we wrote, simple past, an article for the newspaper. We've written for many famous publications. That's the present perfect. Now, many of these irregular past participles end in N, like take, took, taken, do, did, done, and eat, ate, eaten. Others have a change in the vowel, like begin, began, begun, drink, drank, drunk, and come, came, come. In that case, the past participle is actually the same as the simple present. Now, if you download the free PDF lesson guide, I've included a list of lots more verbs like these with their 3 forms, okay? So make sure you get that so you can be sure to use the correct past participle. Let's move on to how to use the present perfect with ever and never. So we do this to talk about actions done at any time in a person's life or at any time in history until now. For example, have you ever been to Japan? Has she ever seen Titanic? Have they ever ridden a motorcycle? Has Jason ever failed a test in his whole life? Now, we use ever in questions only, but not in statements. So don't say, I've ever been to Japan. Just say, I've been to Japan. Never we can use in statements, but only with have or has, not with haven't or hasn't. So don't say, my sister hasn't never seen Titanic. That's a double negative. We can't do that in English. Instead, say, my sister has never seen Titanic. Or we could say it another way, my sister hasn't seen Titanic or hasn't ever seen Titanic. A few more common words that are used with the present perfect are already, yet, recently, lately, and just, because they refer to a recent but non-specific time period. Okay, remember we learned that a specific time would be yesterday, or 3 hours ago, or last Friday. And with those, we would use the simple past. But with already and yet, we use the present perfect. Already can be used in positive statements and questions. For example, I've already read today's newspaper. Have you already paid the electric bill? She's finished the test already. Now, already can go in between have and has and the past participle, or at the end of the sentence. Yet can be used in negative statements and questions. We haven't cleaned the house yet. Has he told you the good news yet? Have they booked their tickets yet? As you can see, yet usually goes at the end of the sentence or phrase. Recently and lately can be used in positives, negatives, or questions. For example, he's recently lost some weight. I haven't seen her recently. Have you spoken to Beth recently? I've gotten a lot of spam emails lately. Adam and Jessica haven't been to church lately. Have you seen any good movies lately? And the word just, which means very recent, is typically only used in positive statements and questions, but not negative statements. For example, don't touch the walls. I've just painted them and they're still wet. Have you just gotten back from the gym? You're pretty sweaty. So all of those examples were using the present perfect, but spoken American English often uses the simple past with already, yet, and just, even though the present perfect would be more technically correct. So you'll often hear Americans say, did you book the tickets yet? Instead of have you booked. I already replied to the email instead of I've already replied. We just got back from the gym instead of we've just gotten back. Okay? That's a little bit of an exception because spoken English doesn't always perfectly follow the grammar rules. Next, let's talk about for and since. So the present perfect is used with for and since to talk about actions that started in the past and continue to the present. I've lived here since 2004. I've lived here for 8 years. Since is used with a point in time. So we use since with dates. Since 2011, since January, since Tuesday. Times, 6:15, noon, this morning, and past events, since I was a child, since he graduated from college, etc. Since is always used with the present perfect and not the simple past. For is used with a time period. So since with a point in time and for a time period. And we can use for time periods of any length. For 5 seconds, for 8 hours, for 2 days, for 6 weeks, for 9 months, for 10 years, for centuries, and so on. For can be used with present perfect or simple past, but the meaning changes. For example, if I say, we've lived in Berlin for 6 months, it means we still live in Berlin now. But if I say, we lived in Berlin for 6 months, simple past, that means those 6 months were sometime in the past and we don't live in Berlin now. There's a quiz to help you practice for and since in that downloadable PDF. Give it a try to be sure you've mastered these. Next, let's learn about present perfect active voice and passive voice. So here's how we form passive voice sentences with the present perfect. We have the active voice, I have sent the packages, and the passive voice, the packages have been sent. Active, he has fixed the car. Passive, the car has been fixed. So there's 2 helping verbs in the present perfect passive. Have or has, been, and then the main verb. And notice that whether we use have or has depends on the new subject of the passive sentence. So we say, I have sent the letter. That was active. The letter has been sent. So has to match the new subject, the letter. He has fixed the wheels. That was active. And we change it to passive. The wheels have been fixed. So have matches the new subject, the wheels. And our final topic for today is the present perfect simple and the present perfect continuous. The present perfect continuous is sentences like, I have been working here since 1992, or he hasn't been sleeping well lately. To ask questions, we start with the question word and then the auxiliary verb, have or has, subject, been, and then the ing form. How long have you been studying English? How long has she been playing tennis? Now, in some cases, the present perfect simple and the present perfect continuous are the same. So, I've worked here since 1992 is the same as I've been working here since 1992. There's no difference in those 2 sentences. But we sometimes use the present perfect continuous to emphasize the action and the present perfect simple to emphasize the result. Look at these sentences. I've been working on this report for 3 weeks. That's the continuous form. It emphasizes the action of working. I've finished the project. That emphasizes that the project is done. We've been cleaning the house all afternoon. That puts more emphasis on the action of cleaning. We've cleaned the bathroom and the kitchen. So that emphasizes the fact that the bathroom and kitchen are done. One thing to remember is that state verbs are never used in the present perfect continuous. So don't say, I've been knowing my best friend since elementary school. The correct sentence is, I've known my best friend since elementary school. Don't say, she's been seeming preoccupied lately. You need to use the present perfect simple. She's seemed preoccupied lately because seem is a state verb. It's very common in spoken English to use the present perfect continuous to talk about ways you have spent your time recently. Look at this little conversation, for example. Hi, Joanna. What have you been up to lately? I've been training for a karate competition. Wow, good luck. And how is your son? He's good. He's been studying a lot lately because finals are coming up next week. Are you still with me? Is your head spinning? Well, now you know all about the present perfect tense in English. I know that was a lot to take in, so your next step is to download the lesson PDF and quizzes to review and practice everything, okay? And if you'd like to keep working on your English grammar, come join my Advanced English Grammar course because you'll learn in detail about verb tenses, advanced sentence structure, nouns, adjectives, adverbs, prepositions, and much more. What's great about the course is that the lessons not only help you understand the English grammar rules, but also put it into practice in your own English. You can even send in your written English for correction. You can find the Advanced Grammar course at espressoenglish.net. I'd love to help you keep perfecting your grammar skills. Thanks for watching. Download that PDF, and I'll talk to you next time.